everybody, Matt Maran here for another quick drive video. So this time I am in the 2019 Ram 1500 eTorque. So I've done a review on the regular Ram 1500, was really impressed with it. It's my favorite truck in the class currently. And so I haven't driven the eTorque version yet though, which uses an electric motor to kind of fill in the gaps in the power. But there's a lot of people that just think this is like an advanced mild hybrid and a stop-start system and that's it. But there's so much more to it. So I have Nick Cappa here, and he's the product specialist for the Ram and eTorque, and so he's going to kind of go over some of the more advanced details of this system and just how cool it is. There's so much more to it, and I want to make sure that they can show what that is instead of just breezing over it like most other reviews do.
Right on that. You're right. I think a lot of people are confused of what eTorque actually is and what it does on the truck. So this is the 2019 Ram 1500. It's a Laramie trim level. It has the V8 engine with an eTorque system. So what that means is it has a belt starter generator mounted to the top of the motor with a very, very thick belt that runs around the crankshaft and then mounts on the top of the engine, the same place the alternator normally would. Now an electric motor can be a motor and power something, but also can be a generator, and that's what we do with the eTorque system. So let's start with the 6 different modes of operation. Stop start, we have the ability to stop the engine and start the engine a lot smoother than what most people see a stop start system does. We don't use the normal starter, so you don't hear that. We use the belt starter generator, and it starts the truck in the blink of an eye. It's 400 milliseconds. It's honestly that fast, and it's imperceptible. So as far as what most people have experienced a stop start, they want to turn the system off because they just don't like the way it feels, the way it comes on when it starts and when it turns off. So my feeling is with that is like, please, on the Ram 1500, don't turn it off. And although we give you that ability, if you're sitting at a stoplight for 90 seconds with the engine running and all 8 injectors going, there's about 1.7 ounces of fuel right there. It's about 1.7 ounces of fuel that you'll just dump on the ground for a 90-second stoplight. And that's most people do that about 10 times a day. And that is just the one mode of operation in eTorque. That's just the first stop start. So don't do that. Keep the start. We worked very hard to make it smooth.
Yeah, and I actually want to demonstrate, since there's no one behind us here, just how smooth that stop start is, because it is like crazy. So full stop, give it a second, it dies. Now just listen. That was it starting. Like, you couldn't even hear it. Like, my wife's C-Class has a really loud and then it starts and it's jerky and stuff for the stop start, and it's awful. And like you said, I don't blame people for turning it off when it's so rough like that. But with this, yeah, you don't even notice it. It's so smooth. So yeah, it makes a lot more sense, especially with a big V8 like this, to leave it on.
The ability to have that extra motor sitting on the engine rather than using the starter and that 48-volt battery pack in the back that's about the size of a suitcase doesn't take up any space, but it gives us a lot more power and a lot more variability in the starting procedure of the engine and the shutting down as well. Plus we have a body on frame, so it gives us another level of separation between the driver and the system itself.
Nice.
So now you're in the second mode of operation, and that is the ERoll Assist. As soon as you pull your foot off the brake, the truck stages itself for motion. And that means that quickly the engine starts, and it starts the first half tire rotation is a lot of electric. There's that belt starter generator starts running on the crankshaft to power the vehicle moving forward. Now it's just an assist. It is not pure EV, and it's only a half tire rotation. Think of it this way. You're at the bottom of a staircase, and you're standing still, and somebody comes up behind you and just gives you a little bit of a push, so you get that help to get you moving to that first staircase before you start rolling through yourself, and your legs do the work after that. That's exactly what happens with the eTorque and the engine. The torque curve comes so fast on the engine, the handshake happens, and the engine takes over from there. But that little move forward when the engines are not very efficient at low RPMs is a lot of help, and it's further electrification going forward on a Ram 1500. So that's your second mode. Now we're into the third one. This is where it gets a little weird, Matt, because you don't expect to be able to regen or recapture energy during acceleration, but that's exactly what happens on an upshift. When the engine revs up really high, then the engine itself is rotating at a pretty quick speed, and you got to slow all of that mass down to be able to make that next shift smooth, because if you don't slow the engine down, you get the slap shift, and you bounce your head against the rear of the seat. Not true on the eTorque system. So normally you'd scrub all that speed off in the transmission clutches, but what we can do is we can turn it into a generator, grab the crankshaft, put a load on it, grab some electricity, put in the battery pack, and make that shift smooth. So you're actually grabbing electricity between shifts to slow the engine down, which is a much more efficient way rather than scrubbing that speed inside the transmission.
Yeah, and don't waste that energy.
Right.
Yeah.
So we've talked about what kind of vehicle I had when I was younger. I had a truck, and I'd take it out and go mud, and I'd sink it, and I'd waste the alternator, and I'd be too lazy to clean it out to get it working again. So back then, though, a 12-volt battery, I could run it pretty much all week and start the truck, and I could tell when it was starting to go dead because the starter would start brrr, brrr, and okay, now I got to clean the alternator, replace it, or whatever it is that's wrong. But the point was the electrical loads were so low on vehicles back then. They could run for a long time because you didn't have a charger for your phone. You didn't have electric power steering. You didn't have heated seats.
Screens and stuff.
15 computer systems running, right?
Yeah.
The electrical loads on today's car will run about 15 minutes before that battery goes dead. Yeah. So at cruising speeds, like where we're at right now, we'll run all those systems, the fan, off that 48-volt battery so the engine doesn't have to take that parasitic loss. It doesn't have to work very hard. Again, another level of efficiency. That's mode number 4.
Yeah.
Mode number 5 is, I'm sure you've experienced it when you have rev matching and you're downshifting. You know, to get that engine up to speed to rev match for that smooth shift, you have to feed it fuel.
Yeah.
Not so with eTorque. We can grab the crankshaft again, spin it up, accelerate the engine up, make that shift happen, and then move forward rather than using fuel to do it.
Nice.
And now you're into the most beneficial piece of eTorque and any hybrid system, and that is the regenerative braking. So rather than losing it into the pads and friction, we, like right now during coasting procedures, that drag you feel, that little drag you feel, that's not the tires, that's not the brakes, that's not the wind. That is actually a load that we're putting on the eTorque system to feed energy into that 48-volt battery to use later. And there's a couple different modes. There's coasting, then there's a blended, and the braking, which is friction plus the eTorque regen.
Okay.
During panic brake stops and such, we let the stability control system take over. eTorque backs out of it.
It's so imperceptible, you know, whenever you're just cruising. You don't feel any kind of, you know, weird hybrid thing going on or anything like that. It's just, you know, very normal driving truck, you know, and the start-stop is very seamless, everything. It just, and like you were saying earlier, how there's no screen in these Rams to show you this stuff happening. It just happens in the background. You're supposed to forget about it and just appreciate and enjoy the higher efficiency, the better fuel economy, and all that kind of stuff. And so it's cool, and it helps with towing and stuff as well, right?
Absolutely. Actually, our highest towing capability at 12,750 pounds is on a truck with eTorque.
Nice.
But yeah, the idea is that we don't have badges anymore on trucks that say EFI or ABS or any other systems, electronic systems that we all kind of take for granted. And as you further electrify vehicles going forward, and we can get double-digit fuel economy gains out of this truck, but as you further advance those technologies, I think that they're going to be just, they need to be imperceptible, they need to be transparent, they need to operate behind the scenes, they just deliver fuel efficiency, of which we're doing in a full-size truck, a 4x4, you're doing 20 miles per gallon combined. That's pretty good, considering it's a full-size truck that weighs about 6,000 pounds with a V8 in it.
Yeah, and you're doing it before any of the other two large truck manufacturers as well, so that's awesome too. Yeah. So how much extra is it for the eTorque system on the regular V8 version?
So on the V6, which is our entry-level engine, it's standard. Every single truck we sell, the V6 comes standard with eTorque. On the V8, it's optional, so you can add eTorque to the V8 for $1,450.
Which is, I mean, I'm sure you'll make that up very quickly with the savings in fuel, you know, after a little bit of driving.
And also it's the comfort too. Yeah, the efficiency. Your brakes are going to last longer. The durability gets improved in different systems, including the transmission. So it's just a more comfortable driving thing. We did a lot with it. We talk a little bit about Easter eggs when we talk about design, or you have a little something in the fret or something in the glove compartment that you're going to find later on when you're cleaning the truck. Yeah. The powertrain engineers have Easter eggs too. And some of those other levels of efficiency that you're getting in operation and benefits too is if the battery pack's full, you have really no place to put all that extra electricity if you're still in a regen capacity. So what we do is we take that extra electricity and we'll overrun the cooling fan on the engine instead of wasting it. So we cool the radiator down more than it normally would, so that if you do come and do another stop-start and you do want to keep the air conditioning going, something like that, the engine doesn't have to come on to cool itself. So we can extend the operation of stop-start by up to 10 minutes.
Wow.
So if you happen to be pulling alongside and see your buddy, you roll down the window, you're just chit-chatting for a while, and you don't realize the fact that 10 minutes has gone by, it'll stay in stop-start mode for that long.
Wow. That's awesome. And you said it'll also prioritize, so if you don't, if you're having air conditioning running, if it's a really hot day, it won't sacrifice cabin comfort. So it's not going to prioritize efficiency over everything else, right? It'll still make sure you're comfortable and do that, which is, I think, a nice feature as well. And for those who really are eco-minded, they could maybe have something so that you can change that prioritization down the road, but it's cool that you have that. But yeah, so thank you for going through all that. Like I said, it's really cool how much you guys have really put into squeezing every last ounce of efficiency out of these new Rams. It's really cool. So anyway, let me know your thoughts on the system in the comments below, guys. Thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Take care.